least you can choose not to smoke. Food, you have no choice.
We were now at the radio station where Carol would have a chance to tell the world her story and what food additives like MSG and aspartame do to any unfortunate organism that comes in contact with it. This radio program, The Power Hour, can be heard around the world on shortwave radio or the internet every day of the week in rebroadcasts or broadcasts.
To the point where they're leaving their seats and they're going out and becoming activists and they're demonstrating and writing letters.
It's msgtruth.org. That's her website. Now, she became injured as a result of using MSG, but she didn't really use it. It was done to her.
I was basically shoveling aspartame out of a barrel.
Whoa, can you believe that, listeners? Shoveling aspartame out of a barrel.
I've had many problems over the years.
What about these tabs? You know the tab drugs?
Yes, the quick dissolve, like the
yeah,
Listerine.
quick dissolve.
The Listerine, the Listerine quick dissolve things, those have aspartame in them as well.
Wow.
If the Power Hour show allows people like Carol to speak out on such topics, they have to be creative about staying on the air. Advertisers that support the mainstream media do so because they're able to tout pharmaceuticals, processed foods, and lethal chemicals. Not here. What the Power Hour sells are natural products, food flavorings, books, and DVDs. Host Joyce Riley knew Charlotte Gerson and was familiar with the Gerson therapy. Joyce's background is in the military as a nurse, and the Gulf War affected her with Gulf War syndrome, an illness. She then produced a startling film called Beyond Treason, which documented the serious environmental degradation from U.S. munitions tipped with depleted uranium, as well as experimental vaccines and more. The consequences of these activities are horrifying. Radioactive depleted uranium, for example, has a half-life of 4.5 billion years and has now contaminated regions of the Middle East forever. Joyce explained the Gulf War syndrome suffered by military personnel.
The Gulf War illness is something that is a combination of a lot of toxins. And I couldn't figure out why I was sick because I only flew from Alaska to Cuba during the time that I was a flight nurse. But I became ill. I did have the vaccines. A lot of the troops did have the oil well fire exposure. They had chemicals, biologicals, vaccines, everything involved. What we do know now is that they were full of toxins. I was a nurse for about 35 years, and during that time I'd done everything from electroconvulsive therapy, which is shock therapy. I had been a chemo nurse. I was a director of nursing. I was a nurse in a heart, lung, liver, kidney transplant unit, and I never appreciated food at all. I never appreciated what it was for. And then I became ill after the Gulf War, and it was amazing to me that nothing in medicine could make me better, nothing. So I had to start looking into alternative and integrated medicine. Gulf War veterans were becoming ill right after the Gulf War. Thousands of them were becoming ill. And we had no place to turn to. We found out that there were some Gulf War veterans that had been helped by eating raw fruits, vegetables, fruits, and doing juicing. And
when all this talk about vaccines came up, Garrett shared his own feelings about vaccines that are given to infants and school-age children. There was a 90% reduction in diseases before the vaccines were even introduced, as graphs clearly show. It was improved nutrition that caused the reduction, not vaccines. Vaccines are neurotoxic, and for that reason and awareness, the boy has a clear position on the subject.
Genetically engineered foods are literally lethal.
It was here in San Francisco that the boy had the good fortune to meet the executive director of the Center for Food Safety, Andrew Kimbrell. The Center for Food Safety is a national nonprofit organization working to protect consumers and the environment from the hazards of harmful food production technologies and promote organic and other forms of sustainable agriculture.
One of the great misconceptions we have about genetically engineered food is that the genie is out of the bottle. You know, and you hear all the time 60 or 70% of foods got genetically modified ingredients in it. Not true. 60% of processed food has genetically engineered ingredients. Actually, almost none of your whole foods are genetically engineered. None of your fruits, none of your vegetables, your meat, your fish, most of your dairy products are completely free of genetically engineered ingredients. As a matter of fact, there's only really 4 genetically engineered crops. That's corn, cotton, canola, and soy. So we have stopped genetically engineered wheat. We've stopped genetically engineered rice. We've stopped genetically engineered fish. We've stopped these biopharmaceuticals. We're seeing that really genetically engineered food is one of the great failures of modern agriculture. It's being rejected around the world. And not only can we stop it, we are stopping it. There are 5 companies that are behind GMOs. You have Monsanto, DuPont, Bayer, Syngenta, and Dow. Those are the big 5 companies behind genetically engineered foods. And they all share one thing in common. They're not agricultural companies. They're chemical companies. And there's a reason for that. Genetic engineering today means only one thing. Not all the stuff that's been advertised, all the myths about more food, more nutritious food, tastier food, all nonsense science fiction. These chemical companies have engineered these crops so they can withstand more and more of their herbicides and pesticides. And they selling hundreds of millions of more tons of their chemicals. That's what they're about. I'm not surprised that Monsanto did not want to interview for this film. Monsanto has developed a technology which has one purpose and one purpose alone, which is they can sell more of their herbicides.
Garrett was shocked to find in doing his homework that many of the people that work for these chemical companies later worked in government positions that were supposed to regulate these corporate giants. Sometimes they went back to work for the corporations again. Employees commonly move through what has been coined the revolving door between corporations and the public agencies that regulate them. Monsanto should not have to vouchsafe the safety of biotech food. Our interest is in selling as much as possible. Assuring its safety is the FDA's job. But when this quote is said alongside a statement from the Food and Drug Administration, it simply doesn't give the casual food eater much protection. The boy found this all very disturbing, with 0 credibility left over for either group.
Ultimately, it is the food producer who is responsible for assuring safety.
So really it's up to the good nature of the biotech companies to provide studies to the government. But mostly this is an unregulated industry, and this is our food.
One of the great questions